In the 213th Block Talks, we speak with Vik Sharma, co-founder and CEO of Cake Labs, who talks about UX and privacy implications of Web3 wallets. I'm your host, Mauricio Magaldi, and this is Block Drops, your weekly digest on blockchain for business. These news are not a form of endorsement, sponsorship, or encouragement for consumption, and are meant for educational purposes only. All right, everybody, I'm here with Vik Sharma, who's going to tell us who he is and what he does with blockchain. Vik, welcome to Block Talks.
Hey, thanks, Mauricio. Thanks for having me on. I'm a blockchain enthusiast to begin with, but I'm the founder of a wallet app called Cake Wallet, which is a self-custodial multi-currency wallet for mobile and desktop.
And what is the background? Because I was browsing through your LinkedIn and I see you come from a very different industry. So what's the what brought you here? I mean, first, what industry was this? What did you do back then? And how one led to the other?
Yes, if you just look at my industry experience, all you see is steel with two E's, STEEL, right? Yeah, so it's a family reasons why I'm in the steel industry. I studied electrical engineering in college, university, and then joined my father, who was in the steel business. And it was a steel engineering company making machinery for the steel industry, rolling mills, processing lines. And then we also owned a steel mill outside of Pittsburgh for many years in the 90s into the 2000s, making rebar. But if you go before that, if you go to my middle school, high school, back then I was a total computer nerd. I taught myself basic, and I'm talking the 80s right now. So, it doesn't sound impressive now, but I guess back then, I taught myself basic, Pascal, machine language, assembly, and, I would write little games and little programs for my dad's business. And it was fun. Then I entered university as a computer science major, and I switched to electrical engineering. That was in 88. But who knew that in 89, internet use would just blow up, especially on college campuses. And the university I went to was the second university in the nation that had fiber optic connection in each dorm room for each user, for each student. So, we jumped in. Everybody in the university jumped in on the internet craze, but who knew? But I stayed electrical engineer. So, like I said, I graduated, joined my dad's business, but I've always kept up with whatever's happening in the tech world. I even had an IT company in the late 90s with about 100 employees as a kind of a side business. And then, of course, 9/11 happened and things got screwy, and I ended up selling that company, which turned out well. And then I heard about Bitcoin like everybody else did around 2011, 2010. 2011, 2012. And it was always in the back of my mind, okay, when I get time, I'll jump into this and see what it's all about. Then 2013 came along and the steel industry just came to a halt. And thought, okay, this is a good time. So I'd sit in my office and just listen to and watch YouTube videos on Bitcoin and try to understand it. And it clicked for me right away. I thought, okay, this is the future. This is world changing. This is going to be something. Then finally, in fall of 2013, I jumped in. I bought a couple ASIC miners off of eBay and started mining, and also started buying at the same time. That was in 2013. Then around 2016, I came across Monero, a privacy coin. And I started thinking, started studying that just like I did with Bitcoin. And I thought, okay, I think the privacy space is definitely going to be something in the future. Monero didn't have an open source wallet for the iPhone. I think any open source or closed source, I don't think it. And I liked it. I thought, okay, people need to be able to use this on the go. And we started making Cake Wallet in 2017, and then we launched in 2018. And then, of course, in 19, we added Bitcoin, and we continue to add more coins. Very selective, but we continue to add.
Interesting. And it's very interesting to me personally, your angle on privacy, because
Hmm.
I'm a former chief data officer for financial services. And in my current day job, I manage the product department that builds Midnight, which is a privacy preserving
Mm.
blockchain out of the Cardano ecosystem. So, very interesting. Would love to hear your perspective because we came from a recent period where even things that had any potential remote privacy capability in the world of crypto was seen with really investigative eyes by authorities, by governments, and even by general population, which ultimately led to the arrest of the founders of the Tornado Cash, which was one of those privacy preserving applications running autonomously on the Ethereum blockchain. There are others running on other chains as well, but that was the kind of flagship case to that moment in the industry. How did that affect the way you build Cake Wallet or the decisions you make for the business?
That's a good question. I mean, we should probably add Samurai Wallet into this discussion as well. So, number one, we're totally non-custodial. We have no control at all at any given point um, of the user's funds or their transaction or where they're sending or they're we don't see anything. We don't have any control. So I think in that way, maybe we're different. And also the privacy aspect of like a Monero is not a third party service where, it's some sort of a mixer or it's in the protocol. It's on the L1. It's on the base layer of Monero. So I think that's different than what everybody else was doing. And on the Bitcoin privacy side, we added silent payments and pay join. And again, that same concept applies to that. We're not doing anything to hide addresses or hide transactions. It's all on L1 stuff. So I think that's the difference. We talk about should we add Whirlpool, which is what Samurai was doing, and is there a way to do it? And we're still investigating that. Is there a way to do it where we are not perceived as the coordinator? Um, and I think the other issue is making profit from it. If you're making profit from transactions, then that can be viewed as an unlicensed exchange or an unlicensed money transmitter. So all those things have to be considered, and we're constantly investigating these things and debating internally, debating with attorneys. um, is if there's a way to do it. I mean, we want to put in more privacy tools, but at the same time, like I explained, we have to do it where we're not the ones coordinating or facilitating in some way. Now, the Tornado Cash one is interesting, right? Because you could argue, well, they weren't coordinating. Um, and again, that I think there you end up in a gray area. And just for the record, I mean, I'm on the side, of course, of Tornado Cash and Samurai. Um, at the same time, there are laws. I think the right step would be is to try to change this legislation and change how the laws are enforced, or at least enforced consistently rather than always being in the gray area. Yeah.
No, I hear you. I think we're at the stage in the industry where we have more conversations with lawyers than we have with engineers, which is
Yeah.
a very bad indicator of where innovation is actually going, which is really not ideal. Um, but you touched upon something that I don't think I've had anyone here that in the show that we were able to explore this, and I hope we can do with you. Um, the world of wallets for crypto and Web3 in general is one, it's very crowded, but there's also not a lot of clarity on what makes a wallet one great, two profitable. So I would want to hear from you as a wallet builder, what are those things that are enabling Cake Wallet and you as a business to offer what great looks like for you, and what does it mean for a wallet builder to be profitable. For a long time in crypto, especially in the Ethereum space, wallets were seen as public goods, right? Which to a certain extent is more of a like principled approach than it is a sustainable approach in my personal opinion. But I would love to hear from you firsthand as a wallet builder what those things look like.
Let me first address a question you didn't ask, but I also think it's interesting. Why a wallet, right? Why did I build a wallet? Early on, I realized, okay, you have Bitcoin. Let's just use Bitcoin as an example. You have this blockchain, and it's floating around in the cloud somewhere, right, for a normie person. But how do you access that information? You access that information through what we call, because we don't have any other word for it, uh, through what's called a wallet. Is basically a place where your keys are stored, and you can use those keys to manipulate and read the blockchain, right? So I guess early on I realized that is it, right? That's what Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are about. That's how you make it work. And that's why I got into the wallet business. So being and you're absolutely right. There's so many open source self custody wallets out there, and I find it quite interesting. The open source nature forces you to always innovate and do something other people aren't doing, do something before other people are doing it, and just keeps you on your toes, which I love. And our source is open source. Somebody could copy us today, and we're MIT licensed. Somebody can copy us today, and I hope some things do get copied, which I'll get into. So the one is innovation, putting in tools that other people aren't doing it. For us, it was definitely Monero to begin with. Nobody else is doing Monero on iOS, which is huge. And after we launched it, everybody loved it. And then on the Bitcoin side, like I said, silent payments, pay join version 2. Nobody was doing it. I think silent payments, still nobody does both directions, send and receive. I think we're the only one. Pay join version 2, I think we were definitely the first, but I think a few more wallets have added that since then. Litecoin, again, these are all privacy features, right? Litecoin came out with MWeb. We were the first wallet to put in MWeb, which was great. In fact, the Litecoin Foundation had reached out to us and said, "Hey, you guys are always willing to do experimental new things. How about work on this with us?" And they were great. They worked with us, and we got MWeb working. So those are examples of doing things differently and doing things ahead of everybody else. Um, and I think coming from the Monero world, we have that privacy ethos in our DNA, and everyone I bring into Cake Wallet is has drank that Kool-Aid already, or they're going to drink that Kool-Aid once they come into Cake Wallet. Um, so I think together we have that ethos, and we're always looking for ways to put in more privacy tools. And then the next question was revenue. So of course, when if sending, receiving, restoring your wallet, we don't make any money from that. We don't have any monthly fee. There's no subscription. There's no revenue. The apps are totally free to download and use. Um, we do have third-party services in the app, such as swaps, fiat on ramps, off ramps. We have debit cards, gift cards. We have D euro staking. D euro is a stable coin for the euro. We have that savings where you earn an interest. So all those partners do pay us an affiliate fee. If one of our users uses those services, we do get a fee. So yeah, it's kind of like a seamless hidden revenue model, but it's something the user never feels because they can use that service in Cake or elsewhere.
Now, I have to ask because being a product person, I'm also worried about speed of shipping things, and you touch upon something that really valuable to me is the first mover, the power of first mover, right? That's kind of where I reckon you guys have been making a name for yourselves. I what is your decision making process as to one, how if it's too strategic, you don't have to say, but how do you select those opportunities? Because in the world of crypto, there are way too many things happening, and all of them seem super cool. Some of them seem super cool but don't work. Some of them doesn't seem a lot cooler, but they really really work. So how do you make the judgment call? Do you have a process? What does that look like?
I would say risk to the user is number one. How is this going to affect the user? Is there any risk of loss or theft or smart contracts failing or what have you? I would say that's number one we look at. Number two, are we involved? Does it involve any involvement from us in terms of custody or being in any way involved in the transaction? If the answer is yes, then we don't do it. I don't care how good it is, we just won't get involved. Um, and but of course, everything starts first with the privacy. We look at things, and the three big things which I've already mentioned were all based around privacy. Um, so I would say those are the main factors we look at. Um, and once those are satisfied, then can it work in a mobile app? Is it going to be a good experience? Should we only do it on the desktop? And that hasn't happened yet. It's not like something we've put in the desktop, but I could see that happening in the future. Maybe take atomic swaps, for example, right? It's hard to do on mobile because the wallet always has to be listening. Maybe that's something we can put in our desktop app. So many factors, but I would say those are the ones that first come to mind.
In the sense of progression, I mean, progress is rarely, if ever, linear. So there are always setbacks or challenges. Are there any like top three challenges in building Cake Wallet that you could specifically point to that were either pivotal in overcoming the challenge and making it better, or that prompted you to pivot somewhere else as you built it?
I mean, there's definitely challenges in terms of building, and we're always learning. We started off with one dev, in the beginning, and then of course now we have a lot more people. To deliver a product is difficult. To deliver a product that's going to be used by the masses is not as easy as it sounds. That you could under deliver, I feel, and you think something is good enough, and sometimes you over deliver by making things too complicated. I always use this example with our dev team. I related to making an app to making a painting. When do you know it's done? As the artist, when do you know it's done? I was like, oh, I could do a little bit here, I could do a little bit there. So, and those are things we're aware of all the time. Is this good enough? Let's not let things get out of hand.
Was there any challenge that prompted you to pivot from what you were going to do for Cake and its users to, okay, we that's not the path forward. This is something else, or drop that completely and then rebuild from scratch? Was there any example of challenge that stopped you on your tracks and forced you to pivot? I don't mean like instead of baking a cake, making a pie. I'm not saying that, but I'm just curious to understand a little bit of your own thought process when those things emerge.
Here's the pivot. We thought initially we would just be a Monero only wallet, Cake Wallet. Um, and then we put some swapping features in and things, and we started hearing murmurs. Oh, I got to use another wallet for Bitcoin, and then send it to Cake. Use the conversion in Cake Wallet to get Monero. So I think adding Bitcoin was a turning point, and for Cake Wallet, and I think it was a turning point for Monero as well, because once people could transfer their Bitcoin to Cake Wallet and convert to Monero, and then it led to other things. Well, why not other coins? Why not more? What else are people using to convert to Monero? Litecoin, USDT. So I would say that was now that you bring it up, I would say that was a turning point. That the realization that we do live in a multi-currency world, um, and I think doing that definitely we gained more traction in the broader crypto community.
Did it force you to develop specific strengths in the team and in the business to make that a continuation for other chains? How did that help you build the muscle for the future stuff that came about?
So Cake is a place for learning. Yeah, we try to find people who are capable of learning. We don't look for people who already know things. If you know things, great, join. But maybe because I'm old, I don't know. I feel like I have a good sense of talking to people and figuring out how capable they are. But so if there's somebody that's capable of learning, we give them the time and space in Cake Wallet to learn. And it's even started with Monero. My developer at that time didn't have any experience in Monero. And I said, okay, go ahead and learn and come back. And he called me 2 months later and said, okay, we're ready to do this. So, and that applies still today, still today. Like take silent payments, for example. Nobody had done it. It was still kind of experimental when we did it. And we said, okay, let's learn this. And however long it takes, let's do this. So we kind of run differently than a lot of other companies do. One is we give space and guidance and support to learn. We don't expect you to know things right off the bat. And I would say the other thing is if somebody wants to work on Solana, and I'm not going to say, okay, join Cake now, work on Litecoin, for example. If somebody works on some, that's one of my interview questions. What do you want to work on? And when I hire them, that's what I put them on work. So they're doing exactly what they like. So it's worked so far. Let's see.
I love that, and that reminds me that it is a privilege to work in this industry because in no other industry you would have the opportunity to do exactly what you just said. It's just really impressive. Now, this is a very momentous moment in the industry, I would say, with the regulations changing everywhere in the world, and what was once seen as prohibitive or toxic is no longer. Still with nuance, but we're getting there. Um, what is the thing that you feel we still need to fix as an industry right now to keep the momentum, but also to avoid getting to a place in like 10, 20 years that we realize we didn't do the things we needed for that one thing? And why is that?
Technologically, I think those things take time, things keep improving. Wallets, user experience, all the thing keeps getting better and better. Still a long way to go, but things are getting better, and that's great. But I do want to see Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to be used for payment on a day-to-day basis. People always say, why can't I use Bitcoin to buy a cup of coffee? So I think it's more of a regulation question than a technical question. I mean, you can do that today. You can go in and pay with, and in some countries you can. So specifically for the US, I think if you remove the taxable event situation with every time you want to spend your cryptocurrency, that could be huge. And I think that would spur more merchants and vendors to accept cryptocurrency as payment, and more people would be willing to use it, knowing that they're not getting taxed. Even if it's a start, I think Senator Loomis said, I think $600, and I think it got reduced to 300 or something. Even 300. I mean, let's just start. Let's say, okay, up to $300 per transaction is not a taxable event. Something. Let's start somewhere. Um, Otherwise, people will continue to use it off the grid, uh, underground, on darknet markets, or just peer to peer, which is fine. I can pay you today in Monero or Bitcoin, and that's great. But I think we're mass adoption, and I can only talk about the U.S. Of course. I think some legislative changes would help.
If you told me 10 years ago I would be excited about progression on regulations, I would laugh at you. But here we are. Uh, um, this is also an industry that does not sleep at all. How do you keep yourself sane and healthy building in crypto?
Credit goes to my team. I would say they're on top of everything, latest development, and they're the ones teaching me. In fact, explaining things, teaching things. So that keeps me sane. And I think at some point you have to realize there's something going to be new every single day, and you can't do everything at once. You have to pick and choose. And that goes back to your initial question: how do you choose what goes into Cake Wallet? And you do have that FOMO feeling. You want to run after the latest thing. Oh, we should do this, we should do that. But then 2 weeks later, it dies, or there's a rug pull or something, and you realize. So, and I think I'm personally getting better at that. Before I would just be like, oh, this is the new hot thing, let's do it. Um, so I've kind of learned to control myself. So that's a way to keep sane. Work out, get sleep, go touch grass. you know, it'll still be here tomorrow or tonight, whenever you come back, and you can continue building. So
Yeah, no, I love that. I also think that having great people working with you is also part of keeping yourself sane, because you either go crazy together or you actually build something meaningful together, which is good. Um, yeah, awesome. From your steel days, do you have people calling you at every Bitcoin all time high and saying, "Hey Vic, I now want to know what you're doing with this crypto thing because apparently Bitcoin is good now." How do you onboard these people? Do you onboard more like crypto curious people? Do you onboard more devs? What's the type of people you've been onboarding, and how do you do it?
so to the normies, as people called them. Whenever somebody asks me about Bitcoin, oh, it's so much. Do you think it's a good time to buy, a good time to get in? And for a long time, I thought, how do I answer that? And finally, I thought of the best answer. I say, I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm always buying Bitcoin. Or if they ask me about Monero, I say, I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm always buying Monero. So that kind of gives the endorsement while removing responsibility. So, right. Um, yeah. So, and it depends who it is. I mean, if I feel somebody's somewhat little technical and kind of understands how cryptocurrencies work, then I'll point them to Cake Wallet, of course. But if it's somebody that has no clue, they don't even know how to do whatever, then I'll point them to Coinbase or Gemini. Like, just go to open an account at Coinbase or Gemini. And then, a lot of people come back, say, hey, now how do I take my Bitcoin off of Coinbase or Gemini? And then there's the entry. Um, so that's all. That's there. Yeah.
Is there anything in the near future of Cake that you would highlight for us to be aware of, be on the lookout? Any major announcements, any new chains potentially? What's been of top of mind for you guys at Cake?
So before I get into the new stuff, I just want to give a shout out to one of our features we added recently, which I'm really proud of, called Cupcake. It's a companion app to Cake Wallet. It's an air-gapped wallet, so you don't have to go out and buy a hardware device. If you have an old phone laying around, you can install Cupcake on it, kill all connections, Wi-Fi, cellular, Bluetooth. It's a air-gapped wallet, so you download Cupcake on an old device that you have laying around, either Android or iOS, and you create or restore a wallet there, and that's used as an offline signing wallet, and it works on Cake Wallet. So it's done through QR codes, so it's completely air gapped. I'm quite excited about that. But to your other question, in the future, what can we see in Cake Wallet? Right now, we're working on Lightning. Uh, we're leaning towards the Spark implementation. It's a heavily requested feature from our users. So, on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, and people say, oh, nobody uses Lightning anymore, but it's our number one requested feature. So I'm really excited about that, to have a multi crypto non custodial wallet with Lightning. I don't think there is one. So we're really excited. Um, what else? I keep kicking around the idea of Zcash. I know the Monero guys don't like to hear that. That's something that may come. It's not on the officially on the roadmap. It's more on the wish list. Um, and we're going to add a lot of EVM chains this year. So you'll see Base, you'll see Arbitrum, Avalanche. We already have Polygon, Tron, Ethereum, of course. Solana's not EVM, right? That's not. I think you're going to see that this year, which I'm quite excited about. You're going to see a total redesign of the UI UX, which we should have out by the end of the year. I'm really excited about that because we haven't done a major overhaul. I mean, we've done tweaks and updates and upgrades and improvements, but we haven't done a total overhaul of the UX. So that'll be exciting, I feel. So this year you should expect Lightning, more EVM chains, and overhaul, and more hardware wallet support. I mean, we already have Ledger. We already support Ledger, and through QR codes, we already support Cold Card for Bitcoin, Cold Card Q for Bitcoin. Soon this year, you're going to see Bitbox, another one which I'm not allowed to announce yet. Um, we're excited about Foundation devices. We're going to support that this year. Keystone for Monero, we already support that. So more hardware wallets, more EVM chains, Lightning, and the total overhaul. A lot of stuff for this year.
A lot of stuff. Busy roadmap. Awesome. So how can people keep tabs on Cake Labs, what you guys are doing, where you're going to show up next? What's the path to keep themselves informed?
Yeah, so I mean, Twitter is probably the best way, just at Cake Wallet. You can find me at Vikrant NYC. So it's my first name, Vikrant, Vikrant NYC, as in New York City. You can find me there. And of course, our VP, Seth for Privacy, he's quite popular. And that's his Twitter name, Seth for Privacy. You can message him there. Yeah. Or cakewallet.com. I believe we have a blog that's pretty updated. So you can follow news and updates on there as well.
Vic, thank you so much, man. Love knowing more about you and your story and your focus on privacy, which is also very close to my heart. And hopefully we will bump into each other in a random crypto event somewhere in the future.
Yes, definitely. I hope so. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Catch us online. We're on Instagram at BlockDropsPodcast, on Twitter at BlockDropsPod or 0x Mauricio. We're on Lens at blockdrops.lens. We have a newsletter on LinkedIn. Write to us at blockdropspodcast@gmail.com, and you can listen to the BlockDrops podcast at Spotify, iColab, Faberbun Tech, and all of the other major streaming platforms. Yay! Shout out to Vic for sharing his journey from his still making days into Web3. Don't forget to leave the ratings on your favorite player and check out the merch store at blockdropspodcast.xyz. This is all for today. Stay rare, stay weird. LFG.